When I think about literacy, I mean, I'm in my library now. There are tons of books in here, tons of books all over my house. I've been a reader since I was a little boy. And I did not come from a family of literary scholars, people who read a lot, but my mother and grandmother recognized that I had a love for reading and a love for books, so they encouraged it. And you can see what it's done for me. It's led me to becoming a bookworm. I am a certified bookworm. I teach literature, I teach writing, I am a writer, and I just can't imagine living a life without literature in it. Some of my favorite authors in back of me: Toni Morrison, James Baldwin, John Steinbeck, Philip Roth, even the writers who I don't have anything in common with, I find common ground with, and I find uh, kind of purpose in the themes in their work, and I see how their work impacts my work. Um, this is the time now that we're living where everything is just in upheaval and chaos. And like so many other people, I turn to literature now to ground me and to, I guess, fortify me against the stresses of the world, and to find stories of others, using the stories of others as a way to understand different points of view and different perspectives. Especially at this time of year with the King holiday coming. And I've got my little shirt here, Black culture influences the world and everything. When I think about King as a writer, I think about his capacity to call upon peace and to use the written word as a way of building bridges between different people. And I think that's what literature is at its heart. It's a way of stepping into someone else's life and seeing the world from a different perspective. It's uh, it's everything I think you need in order to live a fulfilled life. You have literature, you engage with words and the perspectives of other people. That's a starting point for you to accomplish many different tasks. So I am a bookworm. I buy a lot of books every month. I donate the ones that I don't need anymore, but I can't say enough good things about why literature works and why it's great. I say if you're bored, pick up a book. This has never been a better time to be a reader than right now. So get to work.
Hi, my name is Michelle Morano. I'm a writer and a writing professor at DePaul University in Chicago, where I'm also a co founding editor of Big Shoulders Books, which is our nonprofit publishing entity run out of the English department at DePaul, and whose mission is to produce beautiful books by and about Chicagoans whose stories might not otherwise be told, and to disseminate them free of charge. I'm a co editor of one of our volumes, which is called Write Your Heart Out: Chicagoland Teens on Relationships. And this beautiful book, along with all of our others, is available on our website, bigshouldersbooks.com. If you go there and request a copy, as soon as the pandemic is over, we will mail you one. So, what does literacy mean to me? It means the world. It means that in the middle of a pandemic, you can travel anywhere you want to go. You can explore other cultures, you can inhabit someone else's experience and perspective for a while, and then return to your own feeling enlightened and inspired. It means that you can tell your stories in a way that helps you take charge of your narratives, and that can be quite empowering and beautiful. So I applaud the work that you all are doing. The AmeriCorps volunteers and Project Yes participants, thank you so much for all of your energy and time and the wonderful passion that you bring to literacy education. I hope that you all have a productive and um, and inspired and calm and strong Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Hi, my name is Chris Green, and I'm an editor at Big Shoulders Books, and I teach at DePaul University. When I think about literacy, I think about practical literacy, and I also think about a form of personal literacy. From the practical perspective, there's still a lot of folks in our country that need that skill, that ability to simply read. And I think about one of my grandfathers who was a immigrant from Mexico, and he came to the country. He was on the fruit picking circuit, ended up as a silver miner in Park City, Utah, where I'm from, for over 30 years. And he never learned to read. And so some of my memories are trying to help him with different documents, so that he could understand what he was signing. And the fact that he couldn't read, I think really limited, you know, who he could be and how he could be, in this country. So I feel lucky that I eventually, was able to go to school and found a passion for reading. And so this other kind of literacy that I'm talking about, which is more of a kind of a passion for literacy. I think the unique thing about books is that they can become companions. There's that famous quote from C.S. Lewis, where he said that we read to know we're not alone. And in this fragmented world that we live in, I think the fact that we can find a common humanity in some great books means a lot. And the other thing I think that's important about personal reading is that it helps you slow down. We live in a media dominated culture where everything we watch, everybody experiences the same rate, but you read a book at your own pace, so you create your own unique sense of time. So those are just some of the thoughts I have about literacy.
Hello, my name is Mac Robinet. I grew up in a small town in Louisiana on the banks of the Mississippi River. We had no library and I had only 2 books in my home. So as a 10, 12-year-old, I had never owned a book or never read an entire book. So I could read, but not well. I had school books, but they were boring. I had nothing interesting to read. I really worried and wondered about how the world around me worked, but I thought that maybe some things are just unknowable and there was no way to solve that. But one day, everything changed. I was making a milk delivery, we had a cow, to an elderly lady who lived alone. And I noticed in the corner of her room, she had a huge stack of books, but she told me they were not books. They were popular science magazines. When I thumbed through them, the top one, it was like walking through another dimension, into another world, because I saw that there were articles about things I didn't imagine people understood or worried about or wrote about. So I asked her if I could buy one. She said she had a better idea. She said she noticed that I sometimes work with my uncle, the carpenter. She said if I helped her build a chicken coop, she would give me all of those magazines. And she said she would add a book she had, and we'd have a barter for books. So we built a pretty fancy chicken coop, and I went home with several years of popular science. And I spent many hours every day reading popular science. So uh, I had developed the confidence that if I didn't understand something in an article, I could ask an adult. So I was amazed that people were allowed to write to the editor. And I thought, well, maybe someday I'll do that. But what I did do, I noticed I read an article about how to bind your own books. And it mentioned a company in faraway Chicago that manufactured commercial bookbinding machinery. So I wrote a letter to them. I told them that I was a 12-year-old and I wanted to get more information about how books were bound commercially. And to my amazement, they sent me a huge catalog of bookbinding machinery. So it occurred to me that if I could read a popular science magazine from front to cover, maybe I could read a real book. So the first book that I read from front to back, every page was titled Poor Boys Who Became Famous. I read it several times, and for the first time, I felt I had the right and responsibility to ask questions and have my own opinions and ideas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melanie Weiss, and I'm sitting here in my home office, and I hope you're all doing well on this Martin Luther King Day. I am a young adult author of 2 books. I wrote Spoken, my debut book, which won a Reader's Favorite Book Award, and is about students' journey with spoken word. And I also wrote the book Crossing Lines, which is about 2 students on different sides of the gun control divide, and that becomes very apparent during Parkland, which happened in 2018, actually with a killing on Valentine's Day at a high school, and it mobilized students all over the country. And so I wanted to really explore that issue. So I do write about social issues. And I'm really happy to be here with you today. I hope you guys are having a nice day off school and enjoying learning this opportunity and these experiences. I also manage a high school scholarship foundation, so I know how important these extracurricular opportunities are for just learning more and also gaining more skills, and also really just like having more to write about when you're applying to college and when you're writing essays, for instance, for these scholarships. So it's really great to take advantage, and I applaud you all for doing that. I wanted to talk about one of the prompts that is one of the reasons that I was asked to speak today, and that is how cultivating different types of literacy influence our futures, because knowledge is power. And one of the most important ways we get knowledge is books, because not all leaders are not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. So that's a really important to remember. And I know that there's so much that we can gain from books. And even Barack Obama, one of the things that he said is that reading is the gateway skill that makes all other learning possible. And that's so true. And I can't even tell you, the expansion and the things that you can gain from books just is endless, as I'm sure that you know as well. And that I always want to impress on everybody, just to kind of put down our phones, get away from the TV and pick up a good book is so important.
I always think the best way to liberate yourself is the way that Martin Luther King believed in liberating yourself, is through books, through ideas. People can take a lot of things away from you. They can take away your job, and they can take away your house. They can take away your car. They can try to take away your vote, but they can't take away your ideas. And the place you get ideas is through these beautiful things, through books. And I just have always loved the way my head fills up with ideas, and ideas that aren't mine, that challenge my own ideas. Sometimes, man, it's like WWF in there, like I get one idea from one book and another idea from another book, and they're battling it out, right? And then I get a third idea from a third book. And sometimes I just sit back and I don't even know what I think anymore. I got so many ideas in my head that it's like, I just give myself over to being stupid, but stupid in a good way. Stupid in the way that you just want to know more and more and more, and you just want to read more books. So I love that about books, the way they make me feel stupid, and in the best of ways. But I also love the way they make me feel smart, the way they make me feel like I have understandings of things that I wouldn't have if I didn't read. And so I just want to celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday with you the way I think he'd want you to celebrate it, which is to never give up on ideas, never give up on reading, and never give up on the joy of words. I tell you what, it's still the greatest joy in my life. Listen, I hope you have a great Martin Luther King holiday. This is such a special and important day, and I'm so proud and honored to celebrate it with you.
Hello, my name is Julia Alvarez, and I am a writer. In fact, you might see some of my books around me and other books I love. I am a reader. Before I'm even a writer, I am a reader. Now, you probably think, as an author, she must have been a reader from way back, but not at all. I grew up in the Dominican Republic. I didn't come from a reading family. My grandmother did not go past 4th grade. And I disliked books. I hated school. I flunked every grade through fifth grade. I was bored. But then I was growing up in a dictatorship, and the books that were available to me were propaganda textbooks, really boring, and I hated them. But I also was growing up in an extended family, in an oral culture that was full of the best storytellers in the world. And I loved stories, but I didn't associate really great stories with any of the books that fell into my hands until my auntie, Titi, gave me a book called 1001 Nights that I loved. It was about a girl who was living in a dictatorship, and she was about to be killed. And the way she saved her life was by telling stories, wonderful stories. Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, The Magic Carpet, Aladdin and his lamp, his magic lamp. Oh, I read them over and over. And the girl not only saved her life, but she saved the lives of everybody in the kingdom from this cruel sultan, because listening to her stories, he changed his ways and he regretted what he had done. So I didn't know that stories could have that kind of power, but I wanted to be like that girl. Anyhow, when I was 10 years old, my parents escaped the dictatorship and we landed in New York. And I thought I had come to the land of the free and the home of the brave. But the kids in school bullied us, told me to go back to where I had come from. They made fun of my accent. And I just felt like I didn't belong. But I had a wonderful teacher. She could tell that I loved listening to stories. And so she kind of talked me into trying reading again. And she got good books in my hands. And at first I didn't believe her, but I didn't have much of a choice. I needed some place to go to, retreat to. And so I began to read. And oh my goodness, she was right. Those books were full of wonderful stories. And so I became a reader. And soon after reading so many stories, I wanted to tell my own. So in a way, through reading, I discovered the world of the imagination, where everybody belonged, where nobody made fun of me or threw me out. And I felt like I had come to the United States, and the United States that I had been told we were going to, the land of the free and the home of the brave, I found between the covers of books. And now, more than ever, we need to connect with each other, to understand each other, to feel what others that are very different from us feel. And that's what we do when we read. So we're developing great muscles and great skills when we're a reader. But we're also having fun, which is important. So I urge everybody to do what I did and give reading a chance. Thank you, and stay safe, and read, read, read. Thanks.
Right up to now, still my favorite present of all time was a little suitcase full of a dozen books and an ink pad so I could stamp my name on the front pages of each one. I probably read each of those books 3 times or more. Why? Because each book was a kind of freedom, a kind of flight into a new world. Learning to read was part of what people mean when they say literacy is liberation. It is. It is liberation. First, it frees us from what a French writer named de Tocqueville called, quote, being confined entirely within the solitude of our own hearts. It frees us from that place to a good place where we're able to listen to and hear our own heart speak, and also listen to those of others. Second, it frees us from the false certainties of other people's stories about who we are, replacing those sometimes hurtful, often incorrect statements with our own real lived thoughts and feelings. Third, it frees us from the limitations of our own limited experience into a place where we can imagine the reality of other places, places different than our own, what writer Richard Wright meant when he talked about responding to, quote, the warmth of other suns. Finally, literacy frees us to take new chances with confidence, to engage not only our deepest humanness, just our own particular humanness, but also that shared with human beings from all over the planet, no matter their color, whether they're girls or boys, or tall or short, or fat or thin, no matter what their economic privilege. This is what poet Gwendolyn Brooks meant when she wrote that young people should, quote, be precise. Hunt out on your own or make your own alone. Go down the street. That is my belief and my advice to you. Read. Read for freedom, for a sure knowledge about yourself and the wider world. Go down the street.
Or the black man has functioned in the white man's world as a fixed star and impossible pillar as he moves out of his place. Heaven and earth are shaken to their foundations. You don't be afraid, I said. That it was intended that you should perish in the ghetto. Perish by never be allowed to go behind the white man's definition, by never be allowed to spell your proper name. You have, and many of us, defeated intention, and by terrible law and terrible paradox, these innocent who you believe they're inspired and made them safe are losing grasp of reality. By these men you are brothers, you're lost young brothers. And in this world, integration means anything. This means that we will love, shall force our brothers to themselves, and they are to fleeing from the reality, and has begun to change it. From this your home, my friend. You don't be driven from it. The great men have done great here things. Again, and we can make America. America must become. It will be hard, James, but you will come from sterling, pleasant stock men who pick cotton. I read this story right here called "Expert from the Fire Next Time" by James Baldwin. This story right here is talking about how lots of black people died trying to overcome the white people, and how they can't say their own name. They have terrible laws, terrible paradox, and then innocent people just dying from white men. And the blacks they had to go pick cotton for the white people, and they had to do other stuff like they were their slave. And that's what the story was saying. And what I thought about this story is that how racism is, like, back in the day, it's now like starting up like this now, how white people are being racist to lots of people, and it's still racism across the world right now. And that's what I thought about this story.
In order for us as a poor and oppressed people to become a part of a society that is meaningful, the system under which we now exist has to be radically changed.
This means that we are going to have to learn to think in radical terms. I use the term radical in its original meaning, getting down to and understanding the root cause. It means facing a system that does not lend itself to your needs and devising means by which you change that system.
That is easier said than done. But one of the things that has to be faced is, in the process of wanting to change that system, how much we have got to do is find out who we are, where we have come from, and where we are going.
I am saying, as you must say too, that in order to see where we are going, we not only must remember where we have been, but we must understand where we have been.
Ella Baker's call is to radical action. She states that people must change their ways of thinking to change our governmental system. However, she uses the term radical not in its political sense, extremism, but in its more original, sometimes botanical meaning, of getting to something's base, its roots. She speaks a fundamental truth, that we must fix our system so that it lends itself to everyone. Maybe we all could help do that. Think about it.
So, to me, this just means to change the future, you must understand your past. You must know where you have came from and learn from your past if you want to change your future. Thanks.
So for me, what really stood out to me while reading this quote was just the idea that radical cannot be something that we preconceive it to be. Like when we think of radical, we might think of how America was founded in terms of the Revolutionary War and protests like the Boston Tea Party, or we might think of something more recent like what happened earlier this month with the Capitol. But I think it's very important to think of radical and think of protesting and standing up for what you believe in a different light, because protesting and standing up for what you can believe in can look like a lot of different things, which I'm now realizing as a student who has to do school at home. I've signed petitions for causes that I believe in. I've been listening to people and having discussions about issues, which is also great to do. There are also videos online of people who stream these videos in order to generate money and monetize those videos, and that money actually gets donated to various organizations that help with different causes. So I think that's especially great to see, especially for the civil rights movement, because when it comes to things like Black Lives Matter protests, it's kind of we kind of have this one-track mindset in the sense that, like, oh, making a difference only looks like going out and doing a protest. And I think it's really important to know that also, like, part of the movement can be just understanding where it comes from and expanding on it. So that is my take on Ella Baker's quote. I hope you guys have a great day, and happy Martin Luther King Day. Take care.